Very good morning, dear students. Today I shall take up under the subject Money and Banking the chapter on inflation. The concept inflation enjoys wide currency in modern literature because this is one of the most important problems confronting the world today. The widespread COVID-19 pandemic killing tens of thousands of people, over 70,000 people, and more than 1.2 million people being infected with this virus. Definitely there will be inflation, which may be hyperinflation in the coming months, and the world economy may experience severe shortages of essential items, and there will be big problems for most of the economies in this globe. Now let us first discuss about the concept of inflation. What is inflation? Inflation has been defined by different economists differently according to what they think to be the most important cause or causes of inflation. Professor Geoffrey Crowther, in his famous book An Outline of Money, defines inflation as a state in which the value of money is falling, that is, prices are rising. If the prices of all goods and services are rising and the value of money, the purchasing power of money is falling, that is inflation, says Professor Crowther. Professor Paul in his book ABC of Inflation, defines inflation as too much money chasing too few goods. When we have too much money in our possession, which will enable us to buy only less quantities of goods and services, then there is inflation according to Paul. I shall give you a more comprehensive definition of inflation. Inflation is a persistent, sustained and appreciable rise in the general price level caused by an excess of aggregate demand over aggregate supply of current output and a continuous fall in the value of money for a fairly long period of time. I repeat, inflation is a persistent, sustained and appreciable rise in the general price level caused by an excess of aggregate demand over the aggregate supply of current output and services and a continuous fall in the value of money for a fairly long period of time is inflation. Because inflation is not occurring overnight, okay? It really takes some time, and it is a persistent and sustained and appreciable rise in the general price level, okay? Caused by excess of aggregate demand over aggregate supply and will result in a fall in the purchasing power of money. Now let me discuss about the causes of inflation. The causes of inflation can be discussed under three major headings. Part A, inflation caused by demand pull factors called demand pull inflation. Part B, inflation caused by cost push factors, supply side inflation or cost push inflation. And thirdly, inflation caused by monetary factors, the monetarist theory of inflation. Dear students, now having defined the concept inflation, let me discuss about the causes of inflation. Part A, inflation caused by demand pull factors or demand pull inflation. What is demand pull inflation? Demand pull inflation occurs when aggregate demand for goods and services exceeds aggregate supply of current output at or below full employment level of resources. An economy may be operating at full employment or may be operating below the full employment. So we can explain two cases. We can show a diagram with a longer aggregate supply curve which becomes vertical and the aggregate demand curve is shifting rightward so that the price of increases and the real output or the real GDP does not change because the economy is already operating at full employment. What are the causes of demand pull inflation? All those factors which will increase aggregate demand. Okay? All those factors which will increase consumption expenditure, investment spending, government expenditure and net exports will cause demand pull inflation. Let us discuss one by one. Okay? There are several factors which will increase aggregate demand and cause demand pull inflation with a given aggregate supply. Number one, an increase in the disposable incomes of the people. If people's disposable income increase continuously, automatically there will be increase in consumption spending or increase in aggregate demand. And the AD will shift rightward and the result will be with a given aggregate supply, demand pull inflation. Number two, improved consumer confidence. If consumers are confident about the future and the present situation, automatically they will be willing to spend more money, and which means aggregate demand increases and with the given aggregate supply, the result will be demand pull inflation. Again, increasing the wealth of the people. The wealth of the people improves due to stock market booms or and improvement in economic activities like business prosperity, automatically people will start spending more money on goods and services, which will increase aggregate demand and push up the general price level, and the result will be demand for inflation. Number 4, business optimism. The business people are optimistic about the future. More investment will be forthcoming. More investment spending means an increase in aggregate demand and an increase in price level because of demand pull factors. Then again, a decrease in direct taxes like income tax, corporation tax, inheritance tax, wealth tax, etc. on the people. The government of a country decreases direct taxes, which will automatically result in increased incomes in the hands of the people, which will push up the consumption expenditure, aggregate demand, and result in an increase in general price level. Then again, if the business people are really having better opportunities, if the government provides various opportunities for the people to undertake investment activities, there will be increase in investment, and increase in I will result in increase in aggregate demand and push up the general price level. Then another reason for the demand pull inflation is increase in population of a country. The population of a country increases substantially. It means there will be more demand for consumer goods, and which in turn will increase aggregate demand and push up the general price level. The result will be demand pull inflation. Then again, increase in the exports of a country. If a country is exporting more goods and services to foreign countries, other things remain the same, aggregate demand will increase, and automatically there will be demand pull inflation. Then increase in government expenditure. The government of a country spends more money on welfare measures and other activities, automatically there will be increase in aggregate demand and increasing demand for inflation and general price level. The next reason for demand for inflation is increase in the supply of money. If money supply in an economy increases, automatically it will result in increase in demand for consumer goods and capital goods, and increase in aggregate demand, and demand pull inflation will be the result as the general price will increase. Then increase amount of credit created by the banking system. If the commercial banks are creating more volume of credit, which means there will be increase in the availability of cash in the hands of the people, which will result in increase in consumption expenditure, investment expenditure, and increase in aggregate demand, and demand pull inflation will be the result, and there will be general rise in price level. These are the factors which will result in demand pull inflation. As I told you earlier, demand pull inflation can occur with full employment resources or at less than full employment. When demand pull inflation occurs with a given nominal aggregate supply, when aggregate demand is increasing, there will be only an increase in price level with no change in the real output, as the economy is almost operating at full employment resources. However, if the economy has unutilized resources and there is a short-term aggregate supply which is upward sloping gently, and increase in aggregate demand will result in increase in general price level as well as increase in real GDP, as the AD curve will shift right to it, and aggregate supply will be flexible, and there will be increase in real GDP and price level. So these are the causes of demand pull inflation. Now let me discuss the part B, cost push inflation or supply side inflation. As the name suggests, cost push inflation occurs when an increase in the cost of production will result in a decrease in aggregate supply, and which will result in an increase in the general price level. So cost push inflation is inflation caused by a decrease in aggregate supply, a sustained rise in general price level due to a decrease in aggregate supply, and that's why it's also called supply side inflation. All those factors, what are the causes of cost push inflation? All those factors which will increase the cost of production and decrease aggregate supply will result in cost push inflation, or will cause cost push inflation. They are, number 1, increase in the import price of oil and raw materials, increase in the cost of domestic raw materials, less availability of resources in the economy, increase in the wages of workers without increase in labor productivity, increase in the rent of land and building, increase in the interest rates, and increase in the a decrease in the external value of a country's currency, which means when the external value of a country's currency decreases, we have to buy from abroad, from foreign countries, by paying higher amount of our domestic currency, which means the cost of imports will increase, which will result in cost push inflation. It's also caused by an increase in indirect taxes like value-added tax, or goods and services tax, or excise duty, or sales tax, etc. And also Unnecessary government restrictions and government interference also can cause cost push inflation. If the government withdraws a subsidy given to the producers, which will also discourage investment activities and result in cost push inflation. And if the government imposes tax on companies' profits, increases the tax rate or tax level on companies' profits or corporate profit tax is increased by the government, automatically which will increase the cost of production and profit margins will decrease, and as a result the aggregate supply will shift to the left and automatically there will be cost inflation. So cost push inflation can be explained with a given aggregate demand curve and an aggregate supply curve, original aggregate supply curve shifting to the left. When aggregate supply curve shifts to the left, the price level will increase and the real output or real GDP produced in the economy will fall. These are the causes of cost push inflation. Now, the third set of inflation, monetary theory inflation, or inflation caused by monetary factors. Monetarists are a group of economists under the leadership of late Nobel Prize winner economist in 1976, Professor Milton Friedman, formerly of Chicago University. According to Professor Milton Friedman, inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon, and as it is caused by too much expansion in money supply. Milton Friedman is completely justified in saying that inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon, because in many countries there is inflation or hyperinflation because of too much printing of currency notes without any relation to the output being produced. Why is the value of Pakistani rupee or Indian rupee or Sri Lankan rupee is falling against the US dollar? So substantial fall in the value of a country's currency means the currency supply, the supply of currency is too much. There is too much money chasing too few goods. The value of most of the emerging market economies' currencies has declined substantially against the US dollar during this novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. It's not because of the coronavirus that the value of our currency declined, because of the too much printing of currency notes without any relation to the real output being produced. So Friedman is justified in saying that inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon, because if you take the different components of the demand, consumption demand or investment demand or government demand or foreign demand, we can say when one component of aggregate demand decreases, another component may increase. For example, during a business recession, when consumption expenditure decreases, the government may be pumping in more money, so another component of aggregate demand is increasing when the first component, consumption expenditure, is falling. But so continuous rise in price level can be caused by a continuous and sustained rise in the supply of money, for a long period of time. That's why the value of money is falling and prices are rising, price level is rising. Now let us discuss about the costs and consequences of unanticipated inflation. The effects of inflation will be depending on whether inflation is unanticipated, anticipated wrongly or incorrectly, or anticipated correctly. During the time of anticipated inflation, the consequences could be minimum, but the unanticipated inflation in an economy can bring about several disastrous consequences. So let us discuss about the costs and consequences of unanticipated inflation. We can say inflation is tax on people's money holdings. See, when price level, general price level is rising continuously, automatically the purchasing power of money falls. People will be the victims. All segments of society will be adversely affected. Then again, during unanticipated inflation, the savers suffer. People who are saving money, they will get less returns on their savings, or the returns may be negative, so they will be victims of unanticipated inflation. It transfers purchasing power of money from lenders to the borrowers. People who lent money earlier, when the prices were stable, price level was stable, they will be able to get back money from the borrowers, with the less purchasing power or less value, and so they will be victims, and so it will transfer money from lenders to the borrowers. Again, inflation can also lead to social tension. The society will be having lots of upheavals, as a lot of confusion and chaos, and people will be in distress, and there could be violence and other kinds of difficulties. It can create, unanticipated inflation can create uncertainty, and discourage long-term contracts. During inflation, people, if the prices are rising continuously, there is no certainty or guarantee about the future, which means long-term contracts will not be forthcoming. Shoe leather costs. Certain economists say that when the price level is rising continuously, people will be making frequent trips to banks and other financial institutions because there is a high opportunity cost of holding money. They withdraw cash and they spend as the value of money keep on eroding. That's called shoe leather cost. Then menu costs. When there is too much of inflation in the economy, the people how to change their tag. They have to keep on changing their menu cards by changing the prices. So there is a menu cost during inflation. Then again, fiscal drag. During inflation, the money incomes of the people may be rising, even though the purchasing power of money is falling. So people will be pushed up to the higher tax brackets and they will be forced to pay higher rate of income tax and people become poorer. Then uncertainty arising from unanticipated inflation may discourage private investment and total investment in the economy may decline. Then deterioration in the balance of payments position. If the United States of America is experiencing hyperinflation and if its main trading partner is China and the price level in China is quite normal, automatically the export competitiveness of US exporters will decline and Americans will be able to sell or export less to the rest of the world, especially to China. And the Chinese people will find the American goods expensive to buy, so they will import less from America. And Americans will find, the foreign goods, the Chinese made goods, cheaper to buy. And there will be more imports into the USA and less exports from USA, resulting in a disequilibrium in the balance of payments. So, unanticipated high level of inflation will result in a huge deficit in the balance of payments of a country. What is the balance of payments? Balance of payments of a country is a systematic statistical record of all economic transactions between the residents of one country, residents means households, business firms, government, and with the rest of the world in 1 year. So, because of high level of inflation in one country, that country's export competitiveness will be reduced in the international market, and as a result, there will be less exports and more imports, and a deficit in the balance of payments position. Again, inflation can also cause labor unrest if workers are not able to have sufficient income to sustain their daily life. Automatically, and if their standard of living is falling because of increased cost of living, automatically they may resort to strikes, violent strikes, which may result in labor unrest and disruption of production. There can be money illusion, and the rate of inflation may rise due to expectations of further inflation. People may think that already prices are rising. With the fear of further rise in price, people would be very cautious and it might also further lead to further rise in price level. So during this COVID-19 pandemic, many people are having so much of uncertainty as to what will happen in the coming days. This kind of a fear will result in too much of shortage of essential items, and people will be totally be frightened and scared and result in so many kinds of problems in the society. Now, effects of inflation on distribution of income and wealth. Inflation is just like a robber. The difference is that while a robber is visible, inflation is invisible. The victim of a robber may be one or a few at a time, but the victim of inflation is the whole nation. A robber may be dragged to the court of law, but inflation is legal. Inflation redistributes income and wealth in an unfair manner. It robs the poor to enrich the rich. Because people on fixed incomes, people who have invested their hard-earned money on, fixed income yielding assets and all will suffer during inflation. So let us discuss about the consequences of unanticipated inflation on the distribution of income and wealth. First, it is unfair to the savers as the value of their savings falls. Number two, during such inflation, debtors or borrowers gain at the cost of creditors or lenders. The creditors have got the money, when the value of money was high, they will be repaying the money with less purchasing power. So the debtors or borrowers gain at the cost of creditors or lenders. Then again, during unanticipated inflation, people who are unorganized workers will suffer, as they would not be able to get a pay rise and the cost of living is rising, and which will result in their living standards going down continuously. On the other hand, workers who are organized under strong trade unions, they may go on strike and they may be successful in gaining better wage rates. Again, fixed income rules like pensioners are the hardest hit during inflation. During inflation, people who are living on pensions, okay, their pension will have less purchasing power, so they can buy less goods and services, and they will be the victims of, okay, unanticipated inflation. People who invest in fixed interest yielding assets like, okay, debentures will suffer during inflation because they will get a fixed amount of money which will have less value, so that they will be incurring loss. People who are investing in equities or ordinary shares gain during inflation because most of the companies make profits, and as the profit margins of companies increase, people who invest in ordinary shares or equities of such companies will be able to get more capital gain. Business firms of all types will gain during inflation because most of the business firms will be able to earn more profits during inflation. So we can say inflation redistributes income in an unfair manner. It redistributes, okay, income from taxpayers to the government, holders of national debt to the government, savers to the borrowers, creditors to the debtors, okay, unorganized workers to the organized workers, and domestic or home producers to the, okay, foreign producers with a lower rate of inflation. So we can just say inflation is like a robber. Adolf Hitler was the foster child of the hyperinflation of Germany during 1920s. When inflation rate was very high, the German mark was not accepted as a medium of exchange in 1920s, and people were using cigarette as a medium of exchange. That time, Hitler came to power by promising many things, okay, and ultimately he captured power, and because of his greed for power, okay, there was Second World War, and the world was totally in disarray, and many problems were created by, okay, his misbehavior and autocratic activities. Now let us discuss about the measures and the policies to control inflation. Okay, since inflation is caused by demand pull factors and cost push factors and monetary factors, let us discuss the different policies and measures to control inflation under two headings. Okay, policies and measures to control demand pull inflation and monetary theory of inflation, and policies to cure cost push inflation or supply side inflation. Because monetary factors go with the demand pull factors. We can discuss four types of measures or policies to control demand pull inflation. As I told you earlier, demand pull inflation is caused by excess of aggregate demand over the aggregate supply of current output. The policy makers should take such actions which should reduce or decrease the aggregate demand in the economy. So first measure will be deflationary fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is the policy of the government with regards to taxation and government expenditure. When there is hyperinflation in an economy or unanticipated higher level of inflation, to control such demand pull inflation in the economy, the government of a country should increase direct taxes on income and wealth. Okay, when the government increases personal income tax, inheritance tax, capital gains tax, and corporation tax, etc., automatically there will be a decline in the disposable income of the people, which will discourage them to spend more on consumer goods as their purchasing power falls. Okay, with the less disposable incomes, there will be fall in consumption expenditure. Fall in consumption expenditure means a decrease in aggregate demand and fall in the price level. Similarly, when the government imposes heavy tax on corporations, companies, that is corporate profit tax or corporation tax, the profit margins of the companies will decrease, which will discourage them to undertake investment activities, and as a result, aggregate demand will decrease, and okay, the price level will fall, and demand pull inflation is controlled. Again, the government should also, reduce its spending. Not only it increases direct taxes of all types, it should also reduce its spending on various activities. When government spending or government purchases would be reduced, automatically there would be less incomes in the hands of the people. Less incomes means less consumption and less investment, less aggregate demand, and fall in the general price level. So demand pull inflation can be controlled. Okay, so with a given aggregate supply, long aggregate supply, if the aggregate demand is decreased, aggregate demand will shift to the left, which will bring down the general price level without much decrease in output. This is how, okay, the deflationary fiscal policy or contractionary fiscal policy can control demand pull inflation. Now, second measure, okay, deflationary or contractionary monetary policy. Okay, monetary policy is the deliberate policy of the central bank of a country to influence the cost, availability, and the amount of credit that would be available for various activities. The monetary policy is very effective an instrument to control demand pull inflation. When there is demand pull inflation, the central banking authority, the Bank of England in Britain, or the Federal Reserve System in the USA, or the UAE Central Bank in the UAE should follow a contractionary or a deflationary monetary policy by selling more of the government securities in the open market, by raising the discount rate, that is the lending ratio to commercial banks, and increasing the required reserve ratio of commercial banks. These contractionary measures, or deflationary monetary policy measures, will decrease consumption and investment expenditure, decrease aggregate demand, and decrease the general price level. And as that aggregate demand curve will shift to the left, and inflation can be controlled. Then the third measure to control demand pull inflation and monetary inflation is higher purchase restrictions. Many people in most of the advanced countries and even emerging economies buy various items on installments, by having a minimum down payment and having large number of installments. During inflation, the government and the central banking authority should ask commercial banks not to give loans to the people, or ask them to force the people to have a bigger minimum down payment, and also reduce the number of installments so that we discourage to purchase consumer durables like automobiles, and which will definitely decrease aggregate demand and then the price level. Then again, we can also say the government also can follow a policy of stimulating output. Stimulation output, according to Professor Dillard, a famous British economist, the best remedy, the surest remedy against inflation is increase in output. If the output of the country increases continuously, then even if the aggregate demand is increasing, the price level can be controlled. So, increase in output, so there should be measures taken by the government to promote the production of goods and services, especially essential goods and services. These are the measures to control demand pull inflation and monetary theory of inflation. How to control cost push inflation? As I told you earlier, cost push inflation is caused by an increase in the cost of production and decrease in aggregate supply. So the government should take measures to increase output, and increase the aggregate supply and decrease the cost of production. One measure would be the government can give subsidies to the producers on a large scale during the time of high cost push inflation. The government should provide them subsidies, which will encourage them to undertake investment activities and increase output and production and increase aggregate supply, and definitely cost push inflation can be controlled. Then provide more grants to the producers. Firms which are more efficient, especially small and medium-sized firms, can be given special grants by the government, which in turn will definitely increase aggregate supply and decrease the price level. Thirdly, the government should freeze the wages of workers. There should be wage freeze, or the government should not allow the wages of workers to increase substantially without increasing labor productivity or labor output. So, by wage freeze or income policies, effective income policies, the government can reduce the cost of production and increase aggregate supply. The government also can take measures like decreasing indirect taxes like goods and services tax, or value-added tax, or excise duty, or sales tax. All these indirect taxes increase cost of production, discourage investment, discourage production, and decreases aggregate supply. So the government should reduce all kinds of indirect taxes to reduce the cost of production, encourage entrepreneurs to come forward and take investment activities, and more production will be taking place, increase the aggregate supply, and cost push inflation can be controlled. Again, the government also needs to supply essential items through fair price shops or ration shops, so that people will have sufficient quantity of goods during the time of cost push inflation. These are some of the, and again, retraining of workers and giving intensive extensive training to workers. When workers are given good training by the government departments and various other agencies, automatically the skills and productivity of workers will improve substantially, which in turn will reduce the cost of production, increase the supply, and cost push inflation can be controlled. Since inflation is caused by demand pull, monetary and cost push factors, several coordinated, comprehensive policies and measures are required to arrest the inflationary price spiral, for which we need strong and faithful and dedicated governments with appropriate policies and the cooperation of all segments of society. Okay, this is about inflation.